And record. Hey, y'all, this is Trent Knox with the Trent Knox Show, and this is Cutting Edge featuring Bryan Kern. This is our weekly show that we've got, I guess, in production or what's not. Bryan Kern, do you want to introduce yourself again?
I am Bryan Kern, host of the Common Chaos podcast, and Trent's buddy, local Austin dude.
Yeah, for sure. We've been friends for about 2 years now, man. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And, we met up across the ways, living our lives, doing our jobs, and connected on music, covering stuff, doing blogs, podcasts, different sorts of stuff like that. And Bryan just did an episode with his lovely girlfriend, Becca Manley, and they had a conversation about what it is to be in a relationship and how to have a strong relationship. You want to let the listeners know what that was about, and then we can get into this episode.
So me and my girlfriend Rebecca, she's a hairstylist at a local Austin salon here in Austin, Texas. It's called Urban Betty. Me and her been together about 4 years. We moved out here after about being in a relationship for a year and doing the podcast. We've done a couple episodes together. We did one last year on Valentine's Day, so we decided to do it again this year. And we just kind of talk about our relationship, talk about our journey so far, the 4 years that we've been together. We touch on a couple points. It's interesting because we don't, I don't know. I felt myself during the podcast trying not to, and I think I mentioned it. There's relationship coaches that is now like a thing, and especially here in Austin, there's a pretty notorious couple that's known for that, and it seems to be the thing. The hashtag power couple, all that stuff gets thrown around a lot, and I didn't want to come across as we are trying to teach people anything, because I don't feel that we're anywhere near an example to follow in terms of success or anything, because we're not doing anything crazy. We haven't started anything that's no groundbreaking business or anything, but we are both really happy, and we're both kind of on this. We're both on individual journeys, yet we're a part of each other's journey as a couple and a unit. And it's just kind of cool to reflect on that every now and then. And I know a lot of people that were interested in hearing about it, just because we aren't the most, we're kind of breaking out there a little bit more, but we're not the most, I don't know. We're not the most outgoing when it comes to flaunting things or showing off relationships. We're not, and we're becoming that, but for our own brands. I do it more so for the podcast and training and martial arts, and she does it for her hair and for what she's trying to establish. And it's allowing us to kind of be more reflective on our own relationship, other people's relationships, what we need to work on. We look at other couples and say, hey, we should try this and we should do that because they seem happy. And it seems not that we have issues, but we just try things, we're happy. And we're both kind of on this path where there's not to say minimal effort, but it doesn't take much extra work for me and Becca to kind of make things work. And it's just kind of nice to talk about that and share that with, people, anybody that wants to listen. And we've gotten some pretty good feedback on it. Feedback you were giving me right now was certain things we didn't touch on. It's hard, man. We only have an hour and a half, 2 hours to really get into it. And it's, as I was elaborating on that, we were going to do it on Valentine's Day, but we were out with the gym. They had a little get together party thing for couples. So then we did that, and then I came home and cooked, and it was late. So we decided to do it the next night, and we were at dinner talking about it. And there were things we were going to touch on, like the journal, just certain aspects that have been kind of heavy on us lately. We were kind of dabbling whether or not we talk about get romance or anything like that, and we left it up to, if it comes up, let it come up. And there was one time I was going to comment, I was going to make a sexual innuendo to try to be funny, but she was right in the middle of a conversation and I didn't want to interrupt her and make it sound like I was trying to just be funny. But yeah, I don't know if there was really a time to kind of go that route.
I don't know,
but I'm sure it'll come.
I mean, I guess from the most broad spectrum of the conversation, you guys really didn't dive into the intimacy of your relationship.
Yeah.
not to say like you got even to the point at which you were, talking about, sexual relationship, but more specifically the intimacy, like how you guys are close.
Yeah.
How do you, like you guys talked about the hugging when you get home. There were like certain things, but building that, you know, um, the physical connection between you and her, and how do people, without stepping over a boundary, get into like at least some sort of, physical touching, because there are a lot of people these days that are, you know, they're anxiety comes from physical touching from other people, because maybe that's a fear, maybe that's something that they grew up with. I don't know. What do you think about when you think of, even, let's not say like a sexual relationship, but with bros, girls? I mean, there's a lot of things that get involved whenever you have a relationship. How do you interact with other girls or guys in an appropriate manner, to where, like, there's no questioning of the bond between your relationship, or and to say that there are a lot of new sorts of relationships out there that are more open, more free flowing.
See, that's without.
I was going to
I
say
can't
this
really.
too. Hold on. I was going to say, I don't know how much you can say without having her be a
Right.
part of the
Right.
conversation,
Right.
Um,
That's what I was gonna say.
yeah.
I don't know. I can't really speak for her. I do know, like, I do know the dynamic between me and her, and I do know that there's a. I mean, communication. It comes down to communication,
Mhm.
and um, it comes down to, like, obviously trust, being able to trust somebody. How the interactions go. Now that's a different conversation, because, and we were actually going to talk about that. We had brought up, as one of like our bullet points, like the effects of social media on dating and relationships, and
Mhm.
the effects of the social dynamic right now going on in the world, but specifically the U.S. with the whole Me Too movement.
Mhm.
That I feel is like under a magnifying glass. People being feel like they're being triggered, or uncomfortable, put in situations where maybe they're not social as often, and therefore they don't really feel comfortable in situations. That's a whole dynamic, not only for romance and romantic situations and relationships, but for just any type of interpersonal relationship where you're going to be communicating with someone, whether it be a friend, a family member, an acquaintance you meet for the first time. Like handshakes, like people get weird about handshakes. I'm a
Mhm.
hugger. People get weird. I hug all my friends, and sometimes I'm like, fuck, maybe the dude that I'm training with doesn't like hugging other dudes for whatever reason, but I'm just like, yo, let's bro hug and let's go on about our day. Like,
Mhm.
it is a weird dynamic. And we were going to touch on that, but then we went down like a rabbit hole with it, because you can go so many different routes.
Mhm.
And so we decided to scratch that. But dude, I don't know. I can't, that's it. Like, I don't have any type of reference to social media dating, if that's what you want to call it, or like online dating. I
Mhm.
never did Tinder. I never did OkCupid. I never
Mhm.
did any of those. So that whole like meet and greet aspect of meeting, hooking up, I did have to kind of always be like face to face. Now I was big over texting, like that's
Mhm.
big, like in relationships. I think nowadays that digital communication is huge.
Mhm.
As far as the physical, you can walk some fine lines, I think. I don't
Mhm.
know. Do you feel, I mean, do you consider yourself on the dating scene? Like, are you going out trying to talk? Are you not allowed to, are we trying to keep this family friendly again?
No,
Where
I
are
just
you?
I after our last podcast, I realized that you do this a lot, where you
What?
you go about it and then you throw the question back
I
at me.
have to. There's got to be
And
this dialogue, because I
but
don't
you
know how
said
it
so
is
much, and I don't want to
nowadays.
get off of the subject, is that you said you brought up the Me Too movement,
Mm-hmm.
which brought me to think about, which I don't want to segue and forget it. And then you
Here, I'll
also
write it down. I'll write it down. Me Too movement. Right away.
talked about social media and
Mm-hmm.
online dating, and two things come up with that. But I'll answer your question, and I want to go into that. I guess I am on the dating scene, but I'm not interested at this moment. Like, I'm
Okay.
not I don't
Explain.
have any time to invest in it. I have time to invest in this podcast. I want to play video games a little bit more. I want to get, comfortable back in that saddle with things. I want to enjoy my life, and I don't necessarily think that there's a person out there that I can commit time to that's going to be on the same level with me at this time, because I have to do so much for myself. I think that's something that's being spoken about in the media. I want to say the mainstream media, but in the media, that you need to. You guys talked about it a little bit. Love yourself before you can love someone else.
That gets
And
thrown around. That's like telling someone to live their truth though. And
yeah,
like I get shit for having that be like my thing, live your truth, but I
hmm
do it because it's funny. Like, but it is loving yourself. I mean, there's now a very broad line of saying love yourself and truly understanding like loving yourself, and that's a
hmm
huge piece of being able to be in a compatible relationship with
yeah,
someone, is understanding your boundaries, your limits, your sensitivities, your insecurities, understanding all that before you can even begin to try to have somebody else understand it or work with it. And I'm really sorry. Oh God, my dog will not shut up, but
oh, it's fine. It's like barely,
now it's
you can
shutting
barely
itself.
hear it.
No, I know, but I can hear it.
Oh, I
It's
got you.
annoying.
Um,
Okay.
you know what? I want to make it something that's important, but at the same time, the more I invest
What,
in
self-love or
no
relationship building?
building relationships with another woman, or another woman, that seems weird.
A
Like,
person.
I'm a
Okay.
woman, you know what I mean? Like, it's so hard to communicate these days because people will take it out of context or clip it, and so, like, I'm a heterosexual male and I would like to be in a relationship with a heterosexual female. That's what I'm looking for. So when it's difficult to invest time in a girl who has a completely different agenda in life. Maybe that's being presumptuous, and maybe there are girls who kind of have maybe some of the similar things, but maybe they are working on the women's agenda, or maybe they don't care about that. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't want to get off track here. So I start talking about these things and we get into this existentialism,
Yeah.
really.
No. 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 Yeah.
And so, like, but one of the things I wanted to talk about with the Me Too movement was that with speaking about what's the guy's name, the black gentleman who
Yeah. They just said he got
actor,
assaulted.
he got assault. Oh no, not that. Terry Crews, who's been a big part
Okay.
of the
You heard about the other guy, right?
Millette, yeah, Jussie Millette, yeah, which
Yep.
is like some sort of like um I don't know, fake news or whatever. But
No,
anyway, so
he set it up.
with Terry
Apparently.
Crews, he has been in the mainstream traditional Hollywood in community environment, and he felt like he was getting sexually harassed, and then he had women and men who were sexually harassing him while he was working, and so, like, when you started talking about like how you interact with men and how you interact with women, it's a question of like what who what is going to be what is going to be um what is going to be like respected. I don't know, that's not what I mean by this, but like when a woman gets sexually harassed, it's like 10 times worse than when a man gets sexually harassed. It's like, if a man gets sexually harassed, it's like, grow thick skin, just because your coach touched your ass or grabbed your testicles or something like that. It's like, oh, you're just being a baby. You know what I mean? But if that happens to a woman, it's like, oh my God, the press, call everybody, call the police, call the firemen, call everybody in because we all need to discuss this. And then, I mean, it does tie in a little bit to the Jussie Smollett, I think that's what it is, situation,
Didn't even know who he
because
was.
he's in the middle, right? He's not a woman, but he's not what traditional males are. He's in the middle, so
'Cause
like,
he's gay.
yeah, because
Or
he's He's a
He's gay.
homosexual, but he's not only that. He's uh
A black
media
homosexual, which
figure,
is like the double
black,
figure
like
here.
so
Like
many
it,
things, right?
right. I mean, there's
Does that
still
fall under the Me Too movement? I don't know.
I mean, not the race isn't no, but that falls under the, I would say, the, you know, male, I guess, demographic in general, because regardless of if he's gay or not,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, I mean, that's a weird case because it's
Because it's a
supposedly he
lie.
said, yeah. So
Yeah.
okay, eliminating that one. Terry Crews. Um, I mean, I think that there's a stigma behind obviously male-oriented sexual harassment or male
Male on
female.
male.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I feel like that happens a lot more than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of abusive relationships, especially on the male side, comes from probably some sort of abuse from being younger or growing up in a household that had those types of issues, which often can translate to there being like sexual attacks from those males,
Mm-hmm.
on females or males, whatever it may be. Um, and so, I mean, I think that's because Terry Crews, I think that was the big one for him,
Mm-hmm.
was, and then that also kind of segued over to the Kevin Spacey thing, being a creeper with like the little valet dudes that were helping him out or whatever, that's a big thing too.
Oh yeah.
You had Terry Crews being the one that it was perpetrated against, and then you have Kevin Spacey, the one that was the perpetrator,
Mm-hmm.
so you got kind of like both angles, and Kevin Spacey being gay, and, it just being like a weird thing. Like, it happens regardless. Straight dudes do it to straight dudes. Gay dudes do it to gay dudes. Men
Gay
with
dudes do
women.
it to straight dudes.
Women do it to men. I think in probably the rarest of cases, maybe. But then you're, I think, drawing the line. Well, what do you consider like assault for a male? Is it the same as assault for a female? Does a male feel assaulted when a chick says something that a man may say to a? I mean, that gets like a weird balance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I definitely. I don't know. That's a weird line, because when Terry Crews, someone who is like the epitome of a fucking badass, I mean, he's
Mm-hmm.
jacked. He's can easily probably defend himself. He is a fucking beast of a man, and is someone that, from the outside looking in, from a bland perspective, should be able to protect himself regardless if it be a male or a female, and shouldn't in any way feel assaulted by words, or if he did feel assaulted, he could have defended himself. Like, that doesn't matter. He felt uncomfortable, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm.
And that can only be quantified on like his scale of feelings, but there is a degree to where, yeah, it probably can be uncomfortable for a dude to be like approached by a female. Maybe if I don't know, it's weird. Have you ever felt like you've been assaulted? I haven't, so I don't know what that means. I don't know what feeling like I was sexually like harassed by someone means.
I think a dude's grabbed my dick
Had,
before.
I've had a couple of different gentlemen make passes, do things, and it's whatever, because I'm not.
Well, I know for
but
sure.
I've also never felt like threatened. I've never been put in a situation where, like, oh, this guy's being weird, and maybe he can fuck me up, or maybe he is trying to be
Right.
aggressive, or maybe he is trying to do this. Like, I haven't been in that situation before.
Mm-hmm.
What would constitute me winding up in that situation? Not to say like,
well,
hey,
taking
women
what
shouldn't
would
put themselves in situations.
what
but
would it
women
be
are in
that where you would
situations-
take it as the context would be that person is trying to bed you, or like
I mean, that's
interact
just
with
it.
you.
Like, in an average situation, a guy, like, I could be in a steam room with a dude at the gym, and I don't feel any threatened for any reason.
Yeah.
A female in the steam room with a male, that whole dynamic changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, for what it just does. It could, it may not. Maybe women, not every woman feels weird being in a public steam room with just another dude in there, or just a couple dudes in there. Maybe not every female feels that way, but the likely case of a female feeling a little bit more awkward than a male in that situation is highly likely. I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I have felt uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it would constitute being in a situation like that where I would feel uncomfortable.
I have. But that's because.
So what was that?
Well,
and like, yeah, grabbing your dick. Like, was it like an office grabbing
no,
your dick thing? Like, yo, bro,
like I need to make it. I need to break it down. I think because, like, there's the there's like the old game where like you just you sack tap people. There's that grabbing your dick.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the um the like wrestling grabbing your dick. Then there's
Like the backwater crab dangle.
or just like whenever you're like you're rolling and you just grab
Shout out,
dick.
JJ.
You just hold a hand of dick. You know what I mean? Like it
Can't
happens
say I've ever
sometimes. You
wrestled
just
and grabbed dick.
grab dick.
Jiu-jitsu, I guess. Yeah, I've probably rubbed on.
I like when I was rolling and doing a little bit of wrestling. I would just try and fight till I could submit the person. You know what I mean? It didn't matter whether I grabbed a toe or a tongue. You know what I mean? It was gonna
or a dick apparently.
or a dick. But no, I didn't really. I mean, I've been accused of grabbing dick before. But then that was just because the person failed to submit me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I never grabbed your dick, but you weren't able to roll with me. So it's whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
The whole ego thing. But then there's also a lot of the one of the things there's
Yeah, but where does that?
there's two different types of locker room talk. There's
but ignoring all that, have you ever been in a situation where you were like, "Oh man,"
when I was at a party and someone grabbed my dick and was like, "Yo, come on."
you felt like you?
I don't think so.
How did you feel?
I don't
Other
think
than
that's
turn-
ever
other
happened.
than
I
being turned on.
definitely have had like a
Other than
flamboyant
having a-
dude grab my ass.
Other than being rock hard when he did, how else did you feel? Like, did you feel like you were? Just kidding.
Wait a
Did
second.
you not get that?
I was like, wait, I was rock hard.
Yeah, no, that's what I was implying. So, what else did you feel aside from that? Did you feel
You know
like
what?
you were-
I don't know. I don't know.
Did you feel
I don't.
unsafe? Did you feel like you were?
I
Like,
don't.
you were
I don't think
afraid?
anybody. I don't ever take anybody that's flamboyant in any type of way. I'm just like, okay. Well, I'm not. I'm just gonna go and do my
But
thing.
he grabbed your dick.
I have felt. No. See, like I'm. That's
Grab your dick.
disassociated. Not these. Like the. I have felt like where there's been, dudes that have tried to hit me up through text message or online or whatnot, and tried to to ask if what was my sexuality, said that I was good looking or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think that's more and more common. It's way more common for people who are younger than I am, because it's just like there's the anonymity of being online, and like the people that are younger than me are much more comfortable with being that way. But when I was young, like, let's get back to the social media thing, is that social media was just like getting developed, and most of the kids that grow up these days, it's like a social security number. You're born with social media. You're born on social media because your family showed you off whenever your mother was pregnant, or like you grow up being a public figure, at least to people who are on social media. So I guess then I think that's something that is coming to light, is that with what happened with Drake at the Grammys, and how the Grammys have been not wanting to recognize,
What happened with Drake at the Grammys?
he was cut off during his acceptance speech.
What was he talking about?
He was talking about the validity of the Grammys and how they are,
you can grow up being wherever and still.
Yep. Yeah. So what happened?
I heard a little bit of it.
So when it gets down to it, the year before, last year, he had sat down with Beats One Radio and talked about the validity of the Grammys and whatnot. But essentially, this was like just reinforcing that statement. But at the same time, I started to think about it and thinking that, oh, you know what? When Drake first came out, or first got onto the music scene, nobody was really looking at the validity of the amount of people that were listening to his music. So the traditional music person who wasn't on social media may have not even known whether he was successful or not. And then it kind of got me to think about, well, if the numbers online aren't real, and the only validity is what he was saying is if people show up to your shows, whether that's successful or not, what's the reason? Why do people expect integrity in companies like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Twitch, whatever, with the numbers that are being generated, the viewership? If you can have auto, chat bots, view bots, like bots, whatever you want to put whatever number in there, and people are, people respect numbers when numbers don't lie, right? Or something like that. But online they do lie, and it does.
How did we get on the numbers of
Because
Drake,
because the conversation, I guess, is like when my grandmother or my mother or someone in my generation, or maybe even maybe not younger than me, look at an artist and they're like, who is that? When we look at the charts, we would expect the people to know who is, when we look at the numbers and we say, okay, well then 18 to 24 demographic, 99% of those people know who this person is, according to online media. But when we get down to the brass tacks of the real world, most people, you start asking, like, they're like, who's Drake? Or who is that the girl that sang Janae Aiko? They're like, but she's been at every single Grammy, every single award show, singing, whatever it may be. But so what makes a successful media star, online, offline? What is the numeric, or the number that says this person's famous? It can't be Instagram because there's no validity to it. It can't be Facebook because there's no validity to that. YouTube, all these other things, because they can just put whatever number. They can get bots. They can get fake accounts.
So are we just trying to figure out what social media platform is like the validator?
I mean, like, how is social media? Social media is clearly not for. It's not best. I don't think it's. I think it's bad, dude. I think social media is bad at this point.
I think.
I can't find any truth from it. There's nothing there to be like, okay, this person definitely has 1 million followers.
Why does it matter?
Because when those fake numbers, people look at numbers and they're like, that's success. So then the real people who can go out there and really buy and spend their money, and they're spending money on somebody who's not that talented, it's a facade. There's just like this, like, I don't know, pick two rock bands and be like, oh, this one's more numerically successful, but this one's more sonically appealing. And why isn't the one that's more sonically appealing the one that people would say is better, not more successful? With money, touring, ability to be places.
Something that's sonically appealing, which means what? It sounds good. Like, people enjoy it. That's objective, I think. Or subjective. Like, not everybody's going to agree that what sounds good. I think people screaming sounds good. No, like, I'm in what I believe is like the lower demographic of music in terms of what I listen to. I don't really listen to mainstream stuff. Radio Jam's not really into it. So you have that numerically. I mean, there are bands that I enjoy that don't even make the top 200 on Billboard, or that will release an album and doesn't even scratch that surface. But there are bands I listen to that are on that I don't know. I mean, that is quantifying a specific statistic, which is the number of record sales, downloads, and plays, and all that you have are validating those statistics. Like, if you're going to Instagram to validate what statistic, how many followers are really there? Twitter, same thing. Like, Twitter's a whole different conversation. There's Gab now. People are going to Gab. People are going to other social medias that have less than 600,000 users.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's all just like you're I don't know. I That's weird. It's weird.
Do you think
Social
that?
media is I don't think social media is bad. I think the utilization of social media is just as crucial as the utilization of uh you know of what is it that people use a lot of fucking car, like I don't know, like social media is just a part of life now. Social media is a people visit social
Yeah, but the
media
difference is like when you get the
platforms for
yellow
the sake
pages
of
or the white pages back in the day, everything was verified, right? There wasn't some random, fake business that you would call or fake person in there in what why would they fake, you know, I think there's this argument that it should be that everybody is like accounted for and that there shouldn't be any fake accounts. I don't know how you would do that, but that if you look at Bryan Kern's profile, everyone's verified. Not this if you're a celebrity shit. Everybody has been checked out. Like it's like having a driver's license.
well, yeah, but I mean that's like we're in the I mean, I get what you're saying. Like where's the how are we
The authenticity.
that's going to be I mean, I think that that's going to be a one of those lines that becomes really blurry as technology advances.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with like the Rogan and Jack Dorsey podcast that they did recently, and the Facebook, like the testimonies with Facebook and Twitter and all these people in front of Senate. Like it's clear that there needs to be ethical boundaries to social media use.
Mm-hmm.
You are seeing it in other countries in terms of how they're monitoring social media use and like social credit status and things like that. Um, it's just I don't know, man. You do have Facebook and Twitter that are adhering to certain guidelines in other countries, and you wonder if that's gonna be the proper way to utilize technology and social media. I
Mm-hmm.
was just having a conversation last night about um, efficacy in AI development
Mm-hmm.
and what it means to, uh, get a like guideline of how we're going to be developing these programs and software and technology in the future and what
Mm-hmm.
that's going to mean for people in their lives. Like right now, it's the fucking wild west in the internet and social media. People are getting banned, people are getting censored, people are getting pulled off, fake accounts can be created. There's certain social dynamics and cultural dynamics that are being created with
Yeah.
social media that I don't think anybody fully prepared for. Um, and I mean, I don't know. That's just going. I think you might be off course if you're going to social media for any form of validation. And I was going to bring this up too. The utilization of social media and getting what you want out of it is. I'm going to use myself for an example. Like my main focuses with social media are to try to promote common chaos, right?
Mm-hmm.
That getting into the whole like bots and followers and how to promote and things like that. That's about as interested in that as I get when it comes to me trying to promote common chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't take that as any sign of like any type of validation in my life other than how can I get this in front of more eyes and more ears, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Twitter thing. Like I believe that's gonna help me build my like social influence if I'm gonna have any. And when people go to Common Chaos or they want to hear my thoughts and ideas, they can go to Twitter because I'm on that like pretty active now, and I try to be as active as I can and communicate with as many people as I can. But again, I'm involving myself in conversations that I believe are legitimate and I believe are necessary to be involved in. I'm not going over there for any type of validity in terms of who's following me or who is a proper representation. I do try to make sure that they got the blue check mark if it is anybody that I feel of influence,
Mm-hmm.
because that generally means that they are verified. But again, I know Twitter's got some funky shit going on, so in the back of my mind, I'm taking a lot of that with a grain of salt because I know Twitter's got some shit going down.
Yeah.
Facebook. That's where I communicate with a lot of my friends and my family in terms of my personal profile. Very rarely go and add people. Very rarely accept friend requests unless I know them. Um, I'm again. I know Facebook for what it is. Very rarely take anything I see on this seriously unless it's
Mm-hmm.
from somebody I know. Again, I go there for communication with my friends and family. That's it. I'm not looking at it for a source of news. I'm not looking at it for a source of inspiration or anything like that because I know what in lies Facebook or
Mm-hmm.
what lies in Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
The whole fucking nonsense is Facebook. Facebook is nonsense if you let it be. But
Mm-hmm.
if I also need to communicate with my mom, she just Facebook messaged me right now.
Yeah.
Like that's how I communicate with my mom most of the time. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's what you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
Really. Don't go to it for thinking you need to get stuff from it.
Right. I don't know. I think that when I was young, I think this relates to my generation a lot, and yours probably as well. Is that it was it was a form of it was a way for I don't know who the first person was who was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start talking to random strangers, and I'm gonna build a brand, a personal brand on social media. I'm not sure who that first person was. I think probably happened during Twitter, but there was MySpace, there was Friendster, there was a bunch of different forums before that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I remember utilizing social media, but when I was a kid to talk to my friends, and that it was like there was also like some games and stuff that you could play on there, but like ultimately it came down to like just a communication tool. But then I would, somewhere in high school it became a popularity contest and how many friends you had on Facebook or MySpace. Maybe it was in middle school. Like it was like it was your net worth, your social net worth was like how many friends you had. And then
Yeah.
now it's like way beyond that. Now it's like how many million followers do you have? And
When you're an influencer, though, like nobody really.
yeah, but at the same point in time, like it also kind of relates to like once you get out of high school, because the high school girl, the really attractive one that's super popular, has a lot of friends, and then when you get to college, it's like it's not, it's some people like it's changing a lot, because it used to be like in high school it was the cheerleader, then it became the smart girl, and then it became the slutty girl, and then it was the jock, it was the party guy, the drug dealer, whatever. And then in college it is like it's like the exact same thing, but now add integrity, add business, add money, add all of these other categories. And then there was the like, especially in high school, it was like the girl that was known like for being a cheerleader. She knew everybody in the area. Then in college it's like nationally, and then obviously once you get to like being an adult and you get it to be an influencer, about internationally and even maybe intergalactically how well known you are, like an Elon Musk or something like that.
It's a weird spectrum you use, man. Very weird spectrum.
Well, I kind of want to put it back to like, why do the numbers matter? It matters because how relevant are you? And then, going back to when I was like, why does it matter if there are fake accounts? Well, because going back to the dating thing, is like there are all these, for girls and guys, for whatever sexual orientation you are, the systems are no longer looking out for your dating interests, but rather how can we sell you the idea of having a relationship, not having a physical relationship, but like and there are some people who are fine with having a virtual relationship with and paying for a virtual relationship, that gives them some sort of stimulant. But for me, that's not what I'm looking for. And you asked me earlier in the conversation whether I was looking for something right now. I guess in the back of my head I am, but ultimately I don't want to put there's no this current dating scene, there's no way unless you just you know, meet a girl at you meet them at, there's no real connection. There's just, you meet them at the grocery store or you meet them out in somewhere in public, you know.
I mean,
I don't know.
realistically, you can still meet people that way. Um, if there's something that like I've taken from
That, I guess
the
I'm just talking about my own personal, like, how I could accomplish it, because that's more along the lines of what people have been saying to me is like, how do you think you're going to accomplish your dreams, or how are you going to accomplish your desires? You have to be the one forward thinking about it, because everyone can say, oh, it could work this way, it could work this way. Well, it's only going to work the way that you determine it's going to work.
And how are you determining whatever you're trying to get to work to work?
I mean, the way that I can say that I know, but I don't know if there's some, you know, God out there, you know, that's manipulating the way that things happen, and that my prefrontal cortex with my whatever, like, I don't know how that works. So I can think like the thinking that I'm doing right now, but ultimately the limbic system and all this, you know, that Elon Musk was talking about, like, you don't have control over a thing, you're just along for the ride.
I think he was being like symbolic in a way, because a lot of what we do is based off of like reactions and responses to things that we're seeing that are put in front of us. That you know, the use of social media does drive our decision making in a lot of ways. I frequently working at a phone store, like picking up my phone it's constantly in my hand, and I tried my hardest to leave it on like charging docks and leave it because you know, to me it's a distraction, because I'll jump on and scroll for something real quick, you know, and like realize, what am I even doing? I was supposed to be grabbing something else. And like,
can I ask you a question? Do you ever get in trouble for being on your phone at work?
Oh yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Because it would be a good selling point for you to be on your phone.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, so that was my point. Like, it's really hard for me to not be on my phone. I need to have my phone on because we're like grooming.
You're selling. I mean,
my emails, but I mean, like, I'll come out, and if someone's on like social media, I'm like, bro, you can do something completely better. I have like literally stood there and like getting ready for something, for like a meeting or something, and like got lost in a scroll. And then one of my people came up to me and like, oh, we're going over Facebook for the meeting. And it like shocked me back into like what I was really doing, because it just, I saw the scroll and I was like going through, and like one of my friends had said something, and then I scrolled and saw another friend that I hadn't heard from in a second, and he had said something, so I just kept going down the page, like seeing what was being said, hanging out, and like, oh cool, Facebook, we're covering Facebook in the meeting, and I was like, boop, back into reality, like, oh shit, swipe, like, get this off my screen, because it's so easy. And like, it definitely influences our decision making, and it influences what we do throughout our day. It does influence how we interact with people, it does influence how we respond to people, but you don't have to let that be a crutch. I was gonna say, like, you say that in
I completely lost my train of thought.
In a traditional sense, you should be meeting people at the grocery store or out at a bar or something like that, right? But now everything is done over the internet. You can still make genuine
No, I'm saying that it doesn't. I'm saying the way you just phrased it seemed like I was saying that's the only way to get it done, but it's just like, it, for me.
I didn't mean for that. No. So I guess what I meant was, the traditional way still works. If anything, social media is just like a caveat to go out and have those experiences.
It's a tool, right? It's supposed to be a tool.
Yeah, exactly. It's how you utilize it, right? I mean,
you should know how to use it, right?
If you meet somebody on Bumble or Tinder or whatever, that should like create like an introduction. That should be your high five or your handshake.
Yeah.
And then hey, do you want to go get a coffee? Do you want to go and catch this movie? Hey, there's this new place that has like an awesome brunch or an awesome like lunch deal. You want to go hang out, get a couple drinks, whatever.
Right.
You know, fully consent.
I don't know. It's for me, I get so confused. I look at it and I'm just lost. I'm like, some people are like, okay, I know exactly what to do here. Put this word in, this girl's this thing, and then I'm going to manipulate this person so that whenever they get here, I'm going to say the exact same thing, so that they do this exact thing. And for me, I'm like, I don't.
Are you watching like?
Not for me.
What are you watching?
No, but I
That
mean, like,
reminds
for
me of
instance,
a guy who went to pickup school.
What?
I used to work at this grocery store when I was like 18,
Mm-hmm.
and
You're talking about pickup artistry, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. He went to a pickup, yeah,
I
like a
think those
pickup
are called. What? I don't know what the hell that.
pickup artists, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. And
PUA. Yeah.
they were like, that's what they taught you, just how to pick up patterns of
Mm-hmm.
like behavior, and all of
Mm-hmm.
a sudden you were like this suave guy, but all you were doing was recognizing patterns.
Yeah.
And what girls like to drink and wear and say and
Yeah.
talk about, and like being a knower of all things. Like, you're not really a knower of all things. You can just scroll through Facebook, keep a couple trending topics in your head, and then talk about those. Like, that's all
Yeah.
that was.
I think that for me, I'm terribly bad at it. I think that it's because I find it to be kind of salacious. Like, I think that it's like harmful. I think
What
that
what is
going on and being predatorial on like Instagram or Facebook or social media in general, and like I don't know. I think that it's just worse than it was before. Before, you knew the local girl, and or you had in your mind to join the military and go off and find the foreign girl in foreign lands.
Mhm.
That was your way. Now you just get on Instagram and you swipe, and then you find this one that's willing to accept this lifestyle for this exchange, and then you're off on the races, right? So what I kind of want to segue away from this and think about, so what kind of media things are you consuming right now that kind of affect your perspective of your day-to-day offline? What things online are you like
Consume that affects all.
reading, podcasts, music? What's
I
what's
mean,
coming in?
I do podcasts all the time, new music. I try to be
Mhm.
on new music as often as I can. Right now, I'm getting ready for Hard,
Mhm.
which is in like the summer. So over the next month or two, I'll probably transition into some more like dance music, some more vibey
Yeah.
music. Um, I've got a lot of like that going on. Doing a lot of I've been listening to a lot of different podcasts. I've downloaded I've saved probably another 3 or 4 to my like favorites list on my Stitcher over the last like month. Just to try to get like styles down. I have been heavily
Mhm.
on Instagram for the purpose of like stories and just trying to pick up like different patterns and and behaviors of people that I follow,
Mhm.
so I can start transitioning when I do like this advertising thing and get that on board. Start having
Advertising? Oh, you're talking about
yeah
the podcast
yeah
stuff. Podcast
yeah
network.
yeah start having ideas and stuff ready for that, like weeks, and and me and Becca too. So going back to like the relationship thing, we've been like supporting one another and like little ideas and stuff that we're finding, little habits we're finding that we can kind of like, or not habits, but just like, hey, look what I found on Instagram. We can do this real quick, boom, boom, and then like showing her so it can help her.
Mhm.
But other than that, I mean, not much in terms of media, man. Like, I try to not take in. Game of Thrones is coming up,
Right.
and I just saw the first trailer for it the other day, and it got me fucking so excited. And it was like this
Right.
weird, like, oh man, I haven't been this kind of excited for a while, because I haven't been hooked on like a TV show probably since Westworld, like
Mhm.
whenever that replaced Game of Thrones last year. And I don't do too much TV. If anything, it's background noise for me.
Mhm.
But yeah, Game of Thrones, I'm pretty excited for.
What is your balance between being informed and being entertained? And there's
Mm,
probably a third option, but like where do you find yourself being, working, I guess, being entertained, being informed and working? You said you kind of struggle with being on your phone, but like, are you getting enough information out when you're on to help you work, or are you find yourself you're leaning more towards the being entertained part and finding no more information and entertainment than work application?
Entertainment for me lately has been very like project driven.
Mm-hmm.
So entertainment for me is going to be going to California here. I leave in 2 weeks.
Right.
I leave a week from this coming Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. I'll have 4 or 5 days away,
And
four
you're
days
able to
away.
check off from work that during that.
Yeah. I'll
Like,
be disconnected. I'll be in California, and I'll be like podcast stuff. I have a fitness day that I'm doing with my buddies.
so you're like you have a couple things that you would consider
Doing a
project
podcast out
work.
there. Yeah, but it's for the podcast, so it's
Mm-hmm.
to me entertainment, I guess. I've been doing a lot of like tournaments. I went to a tournament yesterday and
Yeah.
saw a buddy compete. I've been watching like a lot of fights, getting a lot of just knowledge and stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
If I read the news every day as often as I can. I try to go to 3 or 4 different sources. I have my Apple News that just filters me everything. I've got an NPR thing on there. I have Vice. I go through Wikipedia News all the time, all the recent articles and the news there, as well as Reddit's news front page. So I try to get as much information as I can. If anything, I'm correlating it to something podcast worthy, something work worthy, something like I've been big on the tech because Samsung's announcing their phones. They've got like 3 or 4 different foldable phones that are launching here within the next 2 or 3 months. So I'm trying to stay on top of that. Anything I'm taking in right now that's newsworthy, I'm trying to implement it elsewhere. Podcast life, fitness life, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Entertainment wise, outside of like trying to apply it again, I got Game of Thrones coming up. I got my vacation coming up. Little things. Got a couple concerts coming up that I'm excited for. Going to Colorado in April.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of the stuff I'm taking in, I try to make it. I try to use it as fuel.
Where are you going in Colorado in April?
Becca's birthday is April 18th, so we're going to Colorado Springs to visit the friends that basically got us together for like 2 days. Then we're going to Denver, and then I think we're staying in Santa Fe for a day.
New Mexico?
Yeah. For whatever reason.
You got all that booked up?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
We're driving, road tripping.
What do you think? What has come across your feed that that like annoys you, and that really, like, you wish wasn't there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got this the other day actually. It's an entire. So basically, a huge portion of the videos you see come across your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram feed, like the feel-good story ones, and the ones where like, oh, this person. Anyways, a lot of those are fake, really fake.
Yeah.
And
could you provide an example?
Yeah, so there was this one that was, and I don't mean fake as in like the Indian and the MAGA hat kid fake, like where we didn't get just the whole story. But there was
the
one...
Jussie Smollett.
No. Yeah, I guess kind of like that. That's a perfect. But I mean, he orchestrated it and then perpetrated it as being real. Whereas, like, okay, so a lot of times you'll go through your Facebook feed and it'll be like,
people believe it to be real,
and it's like a homeless dude and like this.
Oh
you
yeah,
believe what this guy did, and then like the video goes up there and he gives him like, like a fucking some money or whatever. And
clickbait.
Then, like, yeah, it's just clickbait bullshit stories, and
then it just takes time away from you.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're fucking on, no.
And it's like, they got me.
That should annoy me. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. That is something that is probably, I can't say recently. That probably hit me like 2 or 3 months ago, and that's kind of the reason why I made the decision to just not be on social media for any other reason than like some sort of beneficial route.
Can I be honest? I'm going to be honest with you, man.
Please.
I thought Twitch was way more successful than it
I thought,
is.
okay, I've been thinking about going on Twitch because I feel like the YouTube grumble. People are grumbling about YouTube.
Yeah.
People are. I think it's 4 o'clock. People are.
You got another 15 minutes or something?
I got like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Because I have class at 6 and I still got to go grocery shopping.
All right.
What did you say one more time?
I said I thought that Twitch was way more successful than it is.
The grumblings of YouTube are gonna allow something else to open up. Right now, there's nothing really. I figured Twitch was number 2.
Yeah.
According to
just like the way that the media was putting behind it.
Podcast, yeah, and YouTube is like and like everybody else is pretty even. Twitch and all the other ones are pretty even, but they're so far below. They're not even like a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, the reason why I said that, I don't know if you saw my post, like it, and this is something like that it irks me, is I get extremely disappointed when the things that I think are cool aren't as cool as I thought they were. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's like, so Twitch is being in the conversation with the Super Bowl, but that's being like perpetrated, or like it's not real. There's no foundation to, like, when you look at the numbers, when Gary Vee put it out there, 79% of people dislike Twitch or don't utilize it.
Probably because it's way too video game based. They need to get people on there that aren't streamer based. They need to get like a little series. They need to get like a fucking something to really have people want to go to YouTube.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so
influencers on Twitch, not Twitch made influencers. They're gonna need an influencer to jump board over to Twitch and have like an official thing on there.
They do have those though, but you know what I mean. But they're not successful because the user base for the application, they don't care about old media.
Cartoonish. Yeah, and it seems very the logo, everything is geared towards a very young demographic, I think.
Yeah. And even YouTube, Will Smith, he transitioned to it late, right? And that was the whole, but he's doing his thing. I don't know how old the media will succeed on platforms like this, but I mean, clearly, Joe Rogan, was like a D-list celebrity, became probably the #1 most influential, arguably. I don't know. That's why there's this like, I'm getting this new demographic of people that I'm looking like, holy shit, that's a big number of people who don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we're over here with our pitchforks. They've got machine guns, and we're like, how? What? Huh?
Did you hear the Andrew Yang podcast?
Yeah, that was wild.
We'll see how much pull Rogan has by how that works out.
Yeah,
that'll directly. There will be.
But then that's why I said
a statistic where they're like, "Yo, after you, we were trending X amount of mentions on media, or before you, we were this. After you, we were this." And it directly correlated to this mini turnout. That's
but okay, so Andrew Yang is not as appealing as Gabbett, Chelsea, Kristen Chelsea,
Tulsi
Gabbard. I think she, politics wise, her experience is far greater than Andrew. Andrew's business acumen is great, but he's not well rounded.
Yeah. Politically, no. But
huh?
I said politically.
He's not well rounded. No. She's good. She ideally is the. Huh?
She's got like some connections to, I think, Syria or something, or not Syria, but to somebody that's like, you don't need to have support from that person. And the reason that this person supports her, it's like some like dictator or somebody that supports her, is because it's weird.
Whatever. I mean,
the journalist that was on Rogan mentions that, and then Rogan's brought it up too. But I mean, from what I heard her on Rogan, I liked her. Yeah. And that's also going to be a good correlation because she was on Rogan too, and she kind of got her ideas out there, and that has opened up a lot of platforms for her.
To be honest, I didn't even know she was on there, and there was another podcast, the Tinfoil Hat
Mhm.
podcast that her name was dropped, and I was like, oh, I got to look into this. And then I looked into it, and she's really young. She would be the, we just had. I think that we need to have more discourse. I think that we do need this complete flip with with what we had with Trump. Getting rid of the career politicians. She's not a career politician per se, but I mean,
I agree. I gotta take a piss and I gotta go get shit going.
I got you. Yeah, for sure.
Next week though. I work
Didn't
every
really
day
talk
until
about
I
everything, but
leave.
what's up?
I said I work every day until I leave for California,
Okay.
but we can do it a night. That works fine. Or
Yeah,
we can do it
whatever
while
the
I'm in
deal is, we can
California.
figure it out. So you wanna give yourself a shout out?
The Common Chaos on everything: Twitter, Instagram, everything.
Dope.
Yeah, and then of Bryan of Death on Twitter. That's where I'm at, talking a bunch of shit.
Dope. This is Trent Knox with the Trent Knox Show. This was Cutting Edge featuring Bryan Kern. We'll catch you on the next episode. Later,
Appreciate you,
guys.
man.